Today, we're going to focus on Elerson Smith, the pass rusher out of Northern Iowa, who was selected with their fourth-round pick. And to get more into that right off the top of the show, we are joined by a very special guest. He played 11 seasons in the NFL with 4 different teams. He led the NFL in sacks with 17 and a half and was named Defensive Player of the Year in 1995 with the Buffalo Bills. He's coached Elerson Smith since 2018 as the Northern Iowa defensive line coach, none other than former NFL linebacker, 4-time Pro Bowler Bryce Paup. Coach, you got Lance Medow, Paul Dottino here on Giants.com, Big Blue Kickoff Live. Greatly appreciate the time today. Hope you and yours are safe and healthy. How's everything on your end?
Oh, very good. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on the program, Coach. And I want to start with the transformation of Elerson Smith, which is quite impressive, Coach, because in terms of the timeline, you come in right before the start of the 2018 season. He was a 190-pound tight end / defensive end. He works his way up towards a 250-plus pound frame. What's impressed you the most in terms of how he's been able to transform his body and develop into a pass rusher?
Well, just the persistence. We actually got him in, 17, I think, and there were some issues where somebody missed when we were looking at his transcripts. One of the classes he was supposed to take, and so he had to actually redshirt and not even be a part of the football team. He came in at, like you said, 190 pounds, soaking wet, just a beanpole. And he wasn't even with the football team. You know, he had to get his eligibility standards up. Just take a class. If we would have seen it and got him in a class in high school, he would have been fine. But sometimes it slips through the cracks, and he persevered through that and kind of bounced around a little bit, tried him at tight end, and then when I came in the fall of 18, they threw him at defensive end, and the first time I had him run a stunt where the defensive end loops back in underneath the defensive tackle, he stopped. It was just like a calf seeing a new fence, or a deer in the headlights, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take a while, but he just didn't know what he didn't know. Very raw. In high school, they just let him go, come off the edge, and he just beat most people with speed. He was so long and quick that a lot of high school kids couldn't even stay with him. So the transformation has been pretty spectacular to watch and to be a part of, because for me, the reason I coach is to help these young men become 25 years more emotionally mature than I was at that age, because there was a lot of reasons why I was a great football player, and a lot of them had to do with my insecurity and the chip on my shoulder because of things that happened to me in the past, and work through all that stuff. And I want to help these kids get a whole lot quicker. And it's been fun to watch the transformation, not just on the field, but emotionally and as a human being.
One of the things I saw, Bryce, when I did research on Elerson is that you really got into him in terms of adding strength as he jumps into the NFL. And you also, during your time with him, apparently had a tremendous impact on his willingness and eagerness to do film work. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. We have a great strength conditioning coach here, Jed Smith. He's done a great job. I can't really take credit for that part of it, but we set the standards of where we want him to be, meet with him all the time, and he did a great job of working to get himself to this point, and he's very motivated. But as far as the film study, so it was, maybe the second or third game of the season, and he was slated to start because somebody got hurt and wasn't going to be able to start. And in Thursday, it's kind of like a script day where we script out plays, and the team Hampton we were going to play had what they did is they pinned the defensive end and sprinted out to the field, and they had trips formation where they had three receivers to the quarterback's right hand to the field, and then actually would have the running back. So actually it was really four strong to the field to the quarterback's right hand. And to me, I always tell the defensive ends, when that happens, the slot machine just hit three cherries and it's dinging. It's coming. So, that sprint out is coming. You're going to get pinned. So don't take the okie doke and go underneath the tight end or the running back. Well, so we had about three of those scripted in one team in Thursday's practice, and wouldn't you know, every time he went underneath either the tight end or the running back and got pinned. And I just had enough. I yanked him out, and I said, what the heck is going on? You haven't watched any film at all, have you? And he dropped his eyes, and no. So, one of the biggest mistakes that young players have is they try to get by with just athleticism. But, even in the NFL, there's about 5% that can get away with that. But eventually it catches up with them. And if they don't use every aspect to get better, they're going to get passed up in a hurry. That's why you see, I've coached Pop Warner all the way to college now. And you see it all the time where a kid will mature and he won't work at it because he's been gifted or talented. I read the book Mindsets by Carol Dweck, and that really gives you an insight into why a lot of these really talented, gifted people never make it. Because I saw it in my career. There's more talent walking the streets than is in the NFL, and because it's not just based off talent. You have to be able to put it all together, mentally, emotionally, socially, physically, and be able to be a whole package. And a lot of players can't do all that. And so, he was very immature. He thought he could just make it because he was so gifted. And so I talked to the head coach and I said, you know what? He is not ready. I don't trust him. Because it's not whether I like you if you're going to play or not. It's whether I trust you. Because you know what? There's more people that are counting on me doing my job, putting someone out there that's going to be 85 to 90% correct every down, so that they can put their head on the pillow at night and say, you know what? I'm trusting that the other coaches are going to put a good product out there and we're going to win a majority of the time. And basically I told him, hey, I can't do that right now. You haven't studied, you haven't put the time in. I don't trust you. And so he got about 3 snaps that game, and he was kind of pissed. But, kids have a short memory sometimes, and if it didn't really hurt them that much, if it didn't cost them that much, they move on. And so that's what happened. And then we were going to play NDSU maybe 3 weeks later. And again, the same exact thing happened. He came out to practice on Thursday, and halfway through a team period, I stopped him and I said, you haven't watched any film this week, have you? And he dropped his eyes again. Well, he got about 2 snaps that game. And he came in on Sunday, and he was pissed. And I knew that he was pissed because his mom came to the game, and his mom wouldn't even approach my wife after the game. She was just fuming. And, she didn't say anything. She just waved and kind of turned and walked off. And so I knew that we had struck a nerve because, people don't change until it hurts, until it costs them something. And so we had the film study, and he's sitting there, and he's just pissed. He's not looking at me. And I asked everybody in the room how they think the game went and what could they work on and all that. And I got to Elerson, and the steam was coming. And he was pissed. Why didn't I get a play? So I went into it, and I said, you know what? You're never going to play the amount you're supposed to play until you figure out that, you know what? It's not about athleticism. It's not about what you can do physically. It's, are you prepared? Do you know what's going to happen? Have you studied film? I said, until you get to that point, I'm never going to play you like you should be played. and he finally got it. And from that point on, he started coming up, and I started coaching him individually, and the transformation was pretty astounding, what he did. And then, there was a lot of people questioning why he came out, because they look at some of his film and they see he struggled at the beginning of the 19th season. Well, we asked him to do something that, if you're not familiar with football and especially D-line play, when you go from a left end to a right end, and you've always been a right-handed stance, never been a left-handed stance, and we ask you to go to a left-handed stance, it takes a long time to get that figured out and to be effective. And that's what happened in 19. And it kind of came to a head when we played NDSU, because he got his butt handed to him to a certain degree, because he didn't have the stance down. He would hop off the ball, and he would basically brace, and those guys are really good at torquing people, and they torqued him down and they threw him around like a rag doll. And after that point, he really started to work on the left-handed stance. By the end of that season, he was really darn good with that left hand in a left-handed stance. So, I wish he would have come back and played in the 20 season, because there was still more work to be done. But he has busted his butt and taken care of himself. He's put on the weight and still has freakish numbers. He's got a lot more upside to come. I'm really interested to see, the progression from here on out.
Lance, if I can just follow up with Bryce for a second here. Again, Bryce Paup, former NFL four-time Pro Bowler, joining us. He was the defensive line coach for Elerson Smith, the Giants' fourth-round draft pick at Northern Iowa. Bryce, talk to me about that opt-out season, because he turns into potentially being a transfer, thinking he does want to play another year of football before joining the NFL, and then decides, no, I think I'm just going to prepare for the draft. How difficult a decision do you think that was for him? How much influence did you have? And once he made the decision, were you kind of able to guide him in terms of what he was going to need to do to get to the next step?
Yeah, that's a really tough decision to make, because, the problem that these kids are having is there's too many voices. All you see is the overnight success. There is no such thing, but you never hear or see all the grind. I always tell the kids, you know what, if you don't do the work when no one is watching, they're not going to come watch you and cheer for you in the stands on Saturday night, because you're not going to be on the field. And so a lot of people, miss all of the hard work that people have to put into becoming so-called overnight success. And he started getting, a lot of people telling him he's got to, opt out, he's got to do this, he's got to do that. And, sometimes it's hard when you have that many people chirping in your ear to kind of figure out who is really on your side and who is for you and who wants to take advantage of a naive, human being. And, a lot of egos get into that, and it was tough at first, but we finally got back, a hold of him a little bit, and there was a few teams that possibly wanted him to transfer, and once he made up his mind to transfer, then we tried to narrow it down to a few different, and it just for whatever reason didn't work. And then so he decided to he got an agent at that point and started working. And I'd kind of laid out a plan that I wanted him to work on for the final season if he was here. And, basically told him he's got to be able to defeat someone in a phone booth, because he was using his speed too much and trying to use those long arms to run around. Well, offensive tackles knew that all they had to do was just push him a little bit and basketball him around the corner because he was willing to let that happen. Where if he would have come back, we would have worked on defeating the guy in a tight spot, staying on his line, and defeating his opponent. And then, because he would shorten the corner, and he'd be able to use that speed and make several more plays. And so had him start working on, that to a certain degree and making sure that, he works on his stance and coming out of his stance so that he can roll his hips and get up underneath people. Because when he comes out of his stance, gets his hands on people and rolls his hips, he's really effective. But a guy that tall, if you stop your feet and get a little too high, you're going for a ride. And so, those are the things that he worked on.
Bryce, in terms of what you just described, I want to expand a little bit on that because you watch him on film, you see the length, you see the speed. I'm just curious, in terms of his projection at the NFL level, I believe you had odd and even defensive fronts within the scheme that you ran. How do you envision him? Is he a defensive end in your mind on the NFL level? Can he be an outside linebacker playing a little bit off? What is your vision of him as a player, at least in the initial stages?
Well, I think if the Giants or whoever, whoever the coaching staff is there, if they want to make him an outside backer, he's got the athleticism and he's got the ability to study and he's got the ability to do that. But he's also got the ability to put his hand on the ground and rush the passer. He's kind of freakish athletically. People just need to decide what they're going to do with him, and he'll master it depending on what that is. But I think he could do either or both, depending on what kind of scheme they're going to play.
Spencer Brown, your offensive tackle, who wound up going in the third round to the Buffalo Bills, by the way, a place where you had some great success. I had read a quote from him that when he would go up against Elerson Smith during practice, by the time things were over, Smith's jersey was all tattered and torn because Brown felt he got to constantly clutch and grab and hold him to stop him. I wonder how much did it help Smith to have an NFL quality prospect like Brown to work against on a daily basis?
Oh, that makes a huge difference. It makes them both better. Like Will Wolford with the Bills, he had to go up against Bruce Smith all the time. That made him a lot better, a lot faster. With the competition, it forces you to really hone in on your skills and really make it better quicker. Because a lot of players, what they don't understand is it's not the person that I beat in practice. They're not the judge of how good I can be. It's not the person in the game that I beat to say, hey, I've arrived. That's not it at all. I tell my guys all the time, hey, only you and God know how good you can be. Let's find out. By never being satisfied. You can be happy with it, but don't be satisfied. Keep working. And that's the way I coach those kids all the time. And, that's the mindset he's got. And, there was times when Spencer would get the best of Elerson and vice versa, but they just kind of fed off of it. And, they were smart about it. They wouldn't, hurt each other or take it too far, but, it was great competition. You could tell, when they're going against each other, hey, this is going to be a pretty good battle. We'll see who wins.
Bryce, speaking of the level of competition, you referenced a pair of games from 2018 and then had mentioned that there were some ups and downs in the early stages in his play in 2019. When the Giants front office spoke to the media following the selection, they said they watched very carefully that Iowa State game, which was the opener in 2019, that triple overtime thriller. And they said every time they reviewed that game, the fact that he played X amount of snaps, his hustle, it jumped off to them on the film. I'm curious what at all you may remember from that game and what that may say about anybody who questions the level of competition he went up against throughout the course of his college career.
He actually played really well, and he did play some at right end. He jumped around, the block a couple times, but he was able. He's such a freak athlete. He was able to make the play. So I don't think, And then when he went down to the Senior Bowl, he went up against even guards and beat them. So I don't think, that's not going to be an issue. He is good enough, and he's got the mindset that he belongs. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue.
Well, speaking of belonging, Bryce, one more from me. It's obvious that he's got the athleticism, and it really sounds like you believe he has quite a large upside. But as a rookie, my goodness, that jump, you came from that school and wound up, being a star in the NFL, but it did not happen with your very first snap in the pros. So as a rookie, what are the realistic expectations for what he needs to accomplish to mature and to acclimate himself to the pro game before perhaps he becomes more of a regular rotational player?
Yeah, well, to me, the rookie year, the freshman year, it's always hard because there's so many new things to adjust to. There's a new city, new living, new expectations from the fans, new expectations from the coaching staff. There's a new defense. A lot of times it is like talking a foreign language. Yeah, the techniques are the same, but he has to be able to relate it to what he did here. Now, what we did here, we played 3 different defenses at times. So he's got a ton of experience. He's got to be able to relate that to what they're asking him to do. And whether I don't know, like I said, I haven't looked up, I haven't paid attention to who's coaching what, and some of the technique, how much time, because every program is different, how much individual time they have to work on fundamentals, because fundamentals are really the basis of whether you're going to dominate your opponent or whether you're going to be good or not good. A lot of times it has little to do with the ability you have, because everybody that gets a chance to play in the NFL, for the most part, has the ability to be there. Now, mentally, can he take it to the level he needs to? I would say yes, but it'll just depend on the clarity of what they're asking him to do and the reps he gets, and just those things, how he handles change. There's change in everybody's life all the time, and how people handle the change is the most important part, whether they freak out or if they can just roll with it, because you learn a whole lot more through failure than you do success. Mm-hmm. So, whether a player has failure, is failing, they're going to learn it quicker because they're going to find out, hey, that's not the way I do it, or that's not the way it's done, and they figure it out in a hurry. So I guess it all depends on, to a certain degree, patience, how much different everything is, and how they can handle it. Because, when I came through, I had to worry about the numbers. It's not like he has to worry about numbers. They're going to give him a shot, whether he gets in with the right people to help him study. A lot of it has to do with the people he hangs around with, whether they work hard. Thurman Thomas was one of the best at getting rid of competition because he didn't have to work at it. He was one of those 5% that had just freakish athletic ability. He didn't have to work at it, and rookies and people that were coming in all the time started to think, well, I'm Thurman Thomas's buddy, so I can do what he does. Well, you're not Thurman Thomas, and you're looked at in a totally different light. He can get away with not practicing and going out and having fun and not working at it because he's such a freak. And people get cut all the time because they thought they were in with Thurman and they were running with him, but they didn't have a clue. It's not about that. It's what can you produce? What can you handle? Can they trust you? And so I think if he handles the ability to handle change, I would say that probably start out in a pass rush role, and then depending on maybe injuries or what they have for depth, I don't know where they're going to try to play him, but how quickly he handles the nuances and techniques is going to determine how much he's going to play. But I would say in pass rush situations, he'll probably get some opportunities.
We're talking with Northern Iowa defensive line coach Bryce Paup here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Bryce, greatly appreciate the time. Before we let you go, I noticed he blocked a field goal in 2019. We discussed at great length his length as a player. How much of an asset do you think he could be on special teams, especially when you think they'll probably lean on him a little bit in that role before he expands, to your point, himself as a pass rusher?
Yeah, I think he could be very effective. He's got the speed. He can jump, he can jump out of the gym, and, he's got the explosion. He's got the athleticism. He should be able to play, I would think, whether it's kickoff. He's got the speed to run down on kickoff. He's got the ability to turn and make a block on kickoff return and on punt coverage. I would say that they should be able to get some good mileage out of him on special teams, and that's really where you cut your teeth, where they can see, can we trust you, and are you going to bust your butt? Are you going to do what you're supposed to do? I would think that they should be able to get a lot of mileage out of him on special teams.
He was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1995, four-time Pro Bowler, now serves as the Northern Iowa defensive line coach, and he coached Giants fourth-round pick Elerson Smith since 2018. Coach, can't thank you enough. We greatly appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks so much for weighing in on Elerson Smith. Good luck with the upcoming season, and we look forward to talking down the road. Thanks again.
Appreciate it, Bryce. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you.